HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
Today's program is brought to you by Q Drinks, carbonated mixers made for your cocktail. Visit their website at qdrinks.com. That's Q, the letter, drinks.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. We're a member-supported food radio network broadcasting over 35 weekly shows live from Bushwick, Brooklyn. Join our hosts as they lead you through the world of craft brewing, behind the scenes of the restaurant industry, inside the battle over school food, and beyond. Find us at heritageradionetwork.org.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that Sam. It's gonna get you some in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm your host, Sother Teague. Damon Bolte is away this week, unfortunately, but he's having a great time out in Portland, Oregon. Actually, I think he's on a plane right now on his way back, so he's not going to be with us in the studio today. Beautiful day out here in Brooklyn, New York. And I want to just throw a quick shout-out of congratulations to a couple friends of mine who are on the newly released James Beard Foundation awards list. No Anchor Bar, Chris, and the new Elford's place out in Seattle, crushing it. My good friend Derek Brown at the Columbia Room down in D.C., Jamie Boudreau at Canon in Seattle as well, and many, many other friends on those lists, which is just amazing. And, of course, Maury Margot, Chopped Liver, we didn't make the list, but not a big deal. I get to do this radio show every week and meet fun people. So, in studio today, I've got Mal Spence, who is the global ambassador, right?
Hey.
For Black Bottle Scotch, here from Scotland. And as well, I have Hal Wolin, our local Black Bottle rep, right here in Brooklyn, New York.
How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Pull that mic closer to your face. There you go, buddy. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks.
I hope you had a great flight. How long have you been here?
I got here Saturday afternoon, so a couple of days just to chill out and acclimatise, and then met up with Hal on Monday and just started seeing the town.
Right on. How long are you staying?
I'm here until Saturday again, so I'll fly out on a red-eye Saturday evening.
Oh, yeah, so just 1 week. That's
Yeah.
plenty of time to see all of New York. It's a tiny town.
Yeah, get home in time to catch the soccer as well.
What sort of shenanigans are you getting into while you're here?
Yeah, it's been pretty chilled so far. Most times I come to New York, it can get a wee bit heavy quite quickly, quite prolonged. This time we've mainly been focusing on doing some training sessions with our distributors, and then doing a guest bartending shift tonight at Grand Army, which I'm really looking
right
forward
after
to.
the show.
Actually. Yeah.
Cool. That sounds awesome. What are some of the highlights so far? Where have you been?
We went to Seamstress.
Yeah?
Yeah, really cool bar. Really, really liked that.
Did you do an event up there, or were you just hanging out?
No, we just popped in to visit Pam.
Yeah. Is she here? I thought she was in Miami.
No, she came back yesterday.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I mean, Hal's been doing some great work with Pam, with Black Bottle as well over the past year or so. So I haven't been there in that meantime. So it was a real good opportunity to pop in and say hello and thanks to Pam. It was a beautiful bar, and she's amazing.
Outstanding. Yeah, she's
so charismatic.
She's a firecracker, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I just took over her position as the president of the USBG New York City chapter.
Okay.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went down to PDT.
PDT. Oh, yeah, heard of it. Yeah. Great bar.
That's a secret one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, was Bell there? Was Jeff Bell there?
No, AK was there.
Oh, yeah, rad.
Yeah.
So you're right in my neighborhood. You haven't been to my bar yet, though.
Not yet. I'm keeping that one's for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of like off work.
All right. Well, you can come anytime. I've got Black Bottle on the bar, but you have ply of other stuff at my bar to drink.
Few Amaros.
Yeah. I hear you're a fan of Amaro.
I love Amaro.
Yeah, you got a favorite off your head? Without stepping on anybody's toes?
Averna is probably my go-to Amaro. But I'd say working with and using in mixed drinks is probably some of the Cokie range.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Cokie's an outstanding range.
Yeah,
so the
absolutely.
Americano, the Torino Vermouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some great products.
Yeah, they have their new, I don't know if it's new, but new to us anyway, the dope, it's in Italian, I don't know. It means after theater. Doppio Teatro.
Oh, yeah.
Have you tried that one?
Yeah, I have,
amazing.
yeah. I'm heading out there in May.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, to Coconato. So for a couple of days up nasty. I'm really looking forward to that.
Is that pleasure or business?
Pleasure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I've known Roberto for a few years now, so
oh, nice.
I'm going to go spend a few days with him. And my wife as well. She's a big Amaro fan.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the juice.
Let's talk about
Black
Scotch.
Bottle Scotch. Yeah, let's talk about Scotch in general, and then let's get specific and talk about your Scotch. So where is Black Bottle Scotch from? What style of Scotch is it?
Well, it's a blended Scotch, mainly a blend of Speyside and Highland. So our origins are in Aberdeen, up in the very, very northeast of Scotland. Famous these days for the oil industry, but back then it was 1860s, 1870s. Aberdeen was a really kind of rich port town. So you had a lot of different trade and commodity coming in through Aberdeen in the 1860s, 1870s. Really big shipbuilding town as well. You'll be familiar with tea clippers.
Yep.
There was a really famous one they named the whiskey of after you, Cutty Sark.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so the Cutty Sark was built by a shipbuilder from Aberdeen.
I find, this is true of lots of spirits in all over the world, in America as well. Like if you're building your business around a port of call and or a train station, I feel like you get a lot of traction because you just ship it right out, right from home. It goes far.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas if you build somewhere that's not like that, it's a little bit longer of a trail to spread out the good news.
Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, I think Gordon Graham he's the creator of Black Bottle. I think he took more advantage of what was coming in through the port rather than going out. He was a really famous tea merchant. And that's how he established his name in Aberdeen, was as a tea blender and as a tea merchant. So, when you look into the history of Aberdeen and its importance in the British Empire at that time, I mean, mainly it was a port town. There was a lot of trade and commodity, but tea, I mean, Scotland was massive influence in the tea industry.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Which in turn, totally influenced the growth and the evolution of whiskey.
Tea maker turned Scotch blender.
Yeah, but he's not alone in that.
It doesn't seem like a big jump. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, John Walker.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He was a tea blender. The Chivas brothers as well.
Oh.
The Chivas brothers were only located a few streets down from Gordon Graham in Aberdeen.
Collective subconscious. Everyone's doing kind of the same thing at the same time without knowing.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, it's a natural leap. And even if you look at the actual skill set of a tea blender to a whiskey blender, you actually see that it's really, really similar to what a bartender does when he's creating a cocktail. Which is an important message. Because throughout the world, some bartenders in some communities will consider what they do a craft and a skill and to a certain extent an art. But there's a flip side of that coin where a lot of bartenders won't consider what they do really anything special other than just providing a service. So I think it's important to remind bartenders that you don't have to go to the extent of saying it's an art, but I think it's important to realise that it is a skill, and it's a skill that's very familiar to some other trades and some other industries that are very, very highly regarded.
Yeah, you're right. It's sort of the micro version of that. We're doing it by the glass, where these guys are doing it by the casks, multiple barrels. You were a bartender, right? How long?
I mean, I still consider myself a bartender to some extent.
Well, how long have you jumped to the brand side? How long ago?
So I became a global brand ambassador about 3 years ago. Yeah, before that I worked for different brands. Worked for Jack Daniels as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I loved it, man. Loved that. That's a great brand, great history, great heritage. But I've been a bartender for about 18 years. Yeah.
Yowza. You don't look that old, but they start younger over there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
They started 12?
Yeah, I remember about that.
You're banging around the pub.
Yeah, I mean, I was mainly based in Glasgow for pretty much my whole career. For a period, I moved to Edinburgh for 3 years. And that's what really kind of launched my career as a bartender, being in Edinburgh. Edinburgh's a much, much smaller city than Glasgow. You know, Edinburgh's, you know, you could... I'm a Glaswegian, so I can be quite slight about Edinburgh. We've got quite a rivalry between the two cities.
Is this the Chicago-New York thing?
It would be fair to say that Edinburgh is pretty much a village.
Oh, whack.
Well, I mean, they've got a population of about 250,000. Right, Glasgow is 3.5.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's a shocking difference.
Massive difference there.
Yeah, I'll be in Edinburgh in April for the Tales of the Cocktail, what do they call it? Tales on Tour?
Tales on Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I've never been to Scotland. I'm really, really excited.
Oh, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
I think it's going to have quite a following and quite an audience from Europe in general, Ron.
Yeah, I hope so. That's kind of what I want to do. Fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to look at it, for me, I've not traveled the world very much, so I'm trying to make it my mission to get out of the country more this year. I'm leaving for Mexico next week. I'm leaving for Edinburgh following that. I've got some other trips planned in the future as well. You'll be there, right? So I hope to see
I'll be
you
there. Yeah,
it's going to be cool.
I might be in a different state than I'm right now.
Well, let's maybe talk about what gets you to that different state. Talk to me about Black Bottle Scotch.
Black Bottle's pretty cool, man.
What's in the bottle?
It's... I mean... It is quite different from blends, right? And it is quite different from Scotch whisky. And when I say that, I'm not being disparaging to other blends, you know. I quite like a lot of blends. And I certainly like single malt as well. I think maybe every malt that I've tasted over the years, there's maybe only two expressions that I've not enjoyed. Everything else I've loved. But what's really unique about Black Bottle...
I'm a 70-30 guy. I think I drink 70%. When I'm drinking Scotch, I would say 70% of the Scotch I drink is blended.
I mean...
30% is single malt.
I mean, that could be argued for every drink in the world.
Yeah. I mean, that's what my back bar is. I have 2 blends and one single malt.
Yeah.
Yeah, add more. But we don't focus on spirits very much.
Well, I mean, the beauty of blends is... I mean, it was one of the reasons why it became so popular was its accessibility and its versatility. Whereas a single malt can be quite specific.
Yeah.
And if you're in Scotland, you'll discover how Presbyterian we can be with regards to Scotch whisky, this kind of thou shalt not kind of attitude. You don't really see that reflected in blends too much, especially in Scotland. But when it comes to single malt, people are a lot more kind of precarious about how it's used and how it's enjoyed. Whereas you speak to a distiller, they don't care, You can drink it with iron brew, you can drink it with root beer. As long as you enjoy it.
They just want you to enjoy it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about specifically what's going on in the bottle of Black Bottle.
Well, one of the main differences that I think about Black Bottle were the blends. Rather than getting into a whole argument about what's better and what's not, what's really different about Black Bottle is that, to me, it's almost like a vintage blend. It tastes like a blend that's from that era. If you look at some of the other blends, like a Famous Grouse or Chivas Regal, or maybe even like Johnny Walker Red, they're quite specific in their taste profile, and they've been adapted and evolved slightly over the years, and the same is true of Black Bottle to a certain extent. But the liquid that we have here is very much a recreation of the original Black Bottle as it was in the 1870s. So it's a wee bit spicier, a wee bit smokier, but there's still an element of sweetness there, and those 3 distinct characteristics give it a really, really good balance.
Yeah, I mean, it's delicious Scotch. Again, it's one of only 3 Scotches on my back bar, and we get a lot of mileage out of it. It's a very popular drink on the menu currently as well. You've had it, right, Hal?
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, it works great in cocktails as well. That distinct mouthfeel that you get, that it's quite rich, and almost like a Jamaican pot distilled rum.
Yeah, you get a little bit of smoke in the finish, just kind of sneaks up on you, doesn't hit you in the face.
I don't find it to be particularly smoky, as far as, Scotch goes, and I think that that's the polarizing thing about Scotch whiskey. Americans are really fond of whiskey. I find that Scotch whiskey polarizes us, I guess.
Well, it's quite a different kind of smoke, though, Because when you...
Yeah, it's not big and peaty.
Yeah.
Crack that bottle, Hal. I see you're getting nervous over there.
When you think about the word smoke...
Oh, yeah.
And
breakfast.
That's a dram.
You relate it to Scotch and, the assumptions and what you've got as Scotch whisky. You think of peat, you think of kind of earthiness, you think of phenols. Whereas the smokiness is a lot more subtle. Someone once compared it quite recently at a tasting to more of a kind of mezcal type of smoke.
Huh. Let me put my nose on this and give it a smell. Yeah, I can maybe see that. Let me get a taste of it in a second. First, though, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Mal Spence and Hal Wolin of Black Bottle Scotch.
Hi, I'm Jordan Silbert, founder and CEO of Q Drinks, and we're proud to support the Speakeasy. At Q Drinks, we make spectacular carbonated mixers, crafted to mix with your favorite spirits. Based right here in Brooklyn, we're available nationally in 6 flavors, including Q Tonic Water for spectacular gin and tonics, and Q Ginger Beer for spectacular Moscow Mules. I started the company after a night in my backyard with good gin, really good friends, and lousy tonic water. I realized the world needed better mixers, so I made them. Q Drinks uses real ingredients, a lot less sugar, and a lot more carbonation. The result? Clean, crisp, spectacular beverages that bring out the best in your favorite spirits. Using Q Drinks, it's easy to create terrific drinks with just 2 pours. 1 to 2 ounces of your favorite spirit, and 3 to 4 ounces of Q poured over ice in a highball glass. It's simple and spectacular. Q Drinks. Make your drink spectacular.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. And we're back. Back in the studio here with Mal Spence, the global brand ambassador, Black Bottle Scotch, Hal Wolin, the local Black Bottle representative here in Brooklyn. You know, during the break there, I was looking over my notes. I totally skipped over Bar Goto, one of my favorite bars in the world. I go to every Sunday. I call it Church, down in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. They are also on the James Beard nom list. Hopefully they'll make it to the short list. And then win, and then be too crowded for me to get in there on Sundays.
Such a beautiful bar, too.
It's my
it feels like home.
It is my favorite. Yeah, thanks for reminding me that they were on the list. I totally spaced.
Still can't believe you forgot.
Well, maybe I'm trying to keep it a secret. You know, secretly keep it a secret. That way, I don't feel so bad.
It's just around the corner from my hotel, so I'm definitely going to swing by.
Yeah, you know, I live. I mentioned to you. You said you're staying right down next to me. I live only about 4 blocks from that bar. So
yeah, I met Kenta. Must have been about 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
He was across in Belfast at the Merchant Hotel, obviously where Jack and Sean came from. Mm-hmm. And it was the last ever Connoisseurs Club. And so they did this East versus West. And it was Jim Meehan, where it says, what was it again? I can't mind. It was a crazy night. I missed my plane the next day. Sounds like a great night. I had to get a ferry back home to Scotland. It took me about 20 hours to get home. My wife was not happy.
Oof.
Not happy.
Jeez. I bet that was a pleasant trip.
Oh, man.
All right, so you poured us some Black Bottle right before we went to break. We gave it, I didn't. It looks like you've already jumped into tasting, but I was just giving it a nose.
Hey, it's after 10.
I know this stuff, you know. It's after 10. It's after 10 somewhere at all times, Hal. Depends on which 10 you're looking at.
Yeah, so, I mean, Black Bottle is really easy to...
The smoke is really late. You know, I don't find this to be... I wouldn't even use smoke as a descriptor when I describe this scotch. I say things like rich mouthfeel, toffee. I get like some toffee notes.
A little bit of sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally kills some cocktails.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways of... You know, man, you make cocktails, so there's different ways of enhancing or like contemplating some of them tastes. But if you add a bit of water into that, it pulls the smoke out a lot more.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do that then. I've got some water right here. We were prepared at the Heritage Radio Network. There we go. Let that open up a little bit. I see also, Hal, that you brought a second bottle of Black Bottle Scotch, but it's in a green bottle. Why is the bottle green?
So, Black Bottle's got a pretty cool history. Originally created, as Mel was saying, in 1879 by Gordon Graham, Scottish tea blender, in a black bottle, hence the name. And then around 1914 or so, they had switched to a green bottle. They were getting black glass from Germany. World War I happened, so they switched to a green bottle, kept the name Black Bottle. This went on for about 96 years or so?
Yeah, about 96 years, yeah.
96 years it was in a Black Bottle Scotch was in a green bottle.
Scotland.
But I love it started, you know, I love hearing things like this. Like, there's history there. It started because there was a glass shortage or issue during a major world event.
There's a lot of history to the brand. It's changed hands a couple of times over the last 100+ years. The two of us have been trying to figure out who owned it when, where, how, and why, basically. And then in 2013, Burn Stewart, the current owners, re-released Black Bottle in a black bottle. Tweaked the blend a little bit so to be closer to the original flavor profile back from 1914. So that's what I initially poured for you guys.
Which I'm sipping on now. It's delicious.
Yeah, and
you're right. The smoke is coming a little bit forward now that I added just a couple drops of water.
I'm being a little bit of a whiskey nerd. I've been trying to acquire old bottles of Black Bottle just to see how the liquid's changed. If it's closer to the original new bottle or if it's totally different. So I brought a bottle of 1960s Black Bottle, which is actually bottled for some weird reason 70 proof, 35%.
Huh.
We think it's a legislature change in the 60s in Scotland, but we haven't been able to confirm that.
So this bottle was released in Scotland, so it's a Scottish release?
Yeah, Black Bottle wasn't available in the U.S. till the 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Bottle was, it was quite a small niche brand. Yeah, like I said, Gordon Graham didn't really go to the same lengths of like John Walker did,
Sure.
So I mean, Black Bottle was only really produced in the northeast of Scotland, and it was, it was quite a small brand. And it was only recently when I came on board as a global brand ambassador we started launching in various different places in the world. So we're in South Africa, US, Canada, Scandinavia, Europe, and then later on this year we'll be going out to the Far East.
Yeah. They love Scotch over there.
Yeah, they do. They did a really good job at replicating it, and then eventually
kind of taking it away.
Yeah, and then bettering it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of Japanese culture,
Yeah, they're not gonna. Well, we were talking about that earlier. They're not gonna embarrass themselves.
No,
they're gonna do something. They're gonna do it right. They're gonna do it well.
I've tasted some expressions of Japanese whiskey that have just blown me away. But then they've kind of came across the same problem that the Scotch whiskey industry has, and that's a shortage of aged stock.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whiskeys of the world are having the same problem.
Yeah.
Whiskey's becoming such a popular, juice that people can't keep up, right? We're having the same problem with American whiskeys all over the place. It's crazy. Hal, you got any tasting notes on this 1960s? Do you know what year? 1960s? I tried to.
No, I have about 4 bottles of 1960s juice, and each one tastes totally different from the other. So I brought you one of the more interesting bottles.
Is this mine here? Hal?
Yeah. Yeah, some richness. I get some toffee, a little bit of sweetness.
There's like a spice aroma on the nose.
Yeah.
I don't know what that spice is, though.
I mean, I was thinking baking spice. I think Mal earlier in the week said black pepper.
I was going to say white pepper, but
I mean, we just opened this bottle yesterday afternoon. Tasted a couple bartenders on it as we were bouncing around town.
It was around about the 1950s that Black Bottle left family hands and it started to be purchased by, bigger companies. And that's when you start to see a lot of changes happening. Over the years between the 50s and late 90s, they started to move closer to Islay. Now, whether that was like a brand decision to make, or whether it was more, which seems more likely, is that to try and replicate that element of smoke and spice and that kind of peatiness maybe from the original Aberdeenshire style of malts back in the 1870s, that they had to move there. Because in the 60s, 70s, you start to see a lot more generalisation of the regions in Scotch whisky. So you see the Speyside becoming more about light and kind of more floral style malts. The Highlands becoming a wee bit more malty and a wee bit more kind of spicier. And then obviously Islay just becoming all about peat. And
big
about smoke.
peat, yeah.
So I think over the years, that general evolution of the Scotch whisky industry forced those owners into going further and further south. Until the mid to late 90s, you actually had Black Bottle being marketed as the Islay blend. So it's fascinating history, man,
Yeah, I love following the history of especially whiskey, I guess because I like whiskey. But there is so much history. Some of that is true in the world of Amaro, because Amaros have been around for so long. But I find that the whiskey guys really have the fun, interesting little tidbits. Even like the fact that this bottle went green for 96 years based on the war.
Yeah, and that war lasted a considerable amount of time, but not 96
Yeah,
years.
exactly.
You know?
We could have gone back.
So there was a few opportunities to reflect back to that, and the fact that no one clicked. Why
Yeah.
is this called Black Bottle?
Yeah.
In 96 years it took, and it was an Italian Glaswegian guy that actually was like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
We can fix this.
Yeah, we can fix this now.
Yeah, and the bottle looks pretty stately now that it's black. Yeah.
One of the oldest examples we have of Black Bottle, when it was in its old style Black Bottle, was from 1904. And I have a bottle of that. I really, really wanted to bring it with me, but yeah, it's the only bottle we've got.
I totally understand.
So-
yeah, there's a picture on Hal's Instagram I'm looking at. It looks pretty similar. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, really similar, right?
Similar shape, drop shoulder. I like it.
Even the label's really similar as well.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, so let's. So I just nosed this guy. Did you taste it yet? You tasted it yesterday. What are your tasting notes, Hal?
I get a little bit of like vanilla, just a little bit of smoke, not as much as the current blend. A little bit of oily mouthfeel.
Yeah, this one's a lot lighter. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously it's lower proof, but a lot lighter, and that spice note, that little peppery bit, is coming through a lot.
I think what they would have done was to try and bring that blend more in line with the blends that were popular, because the original Black Bottle was quite a challenging blend, It was quite rich, it was quite intense. So I think maybe over the years, different owners tried to bring it more in line with like the standard blends like Dewar's, John Walker Red Label.
Yeah, you want to reach as broad an audience as you
Yeah,
can,
exactly.
especially when you're starting your business, and then as your business carries on and gets a little bit stronger, you can be a little bit more niche and define yourself a little bit more.
Obviously, the guys that
Especially
made
when
it
you're
an
talking
Isla
about-
blend didn't consider reaching a large market.
Right, exactly. Well, but in the end, they kind of have, like they've been niche the whole time, and now people seek that stuff out.
Yeah.
Like peated Scotch is a very popular, but again, super polarizing. Like, I know you're not behind a bar anymore, but when you were in Scotland. Is Scotch as polarizing in Scotland as it is here in America?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Is it like a hometown hero? You got to drink what you're from your own home, or do you got to?
The closest we've got in Glasgow is Auchentoshan, which is from it's just outside the town where my mother lives, Kilpatrick, and then you have Glengoyne as well, which is just outside of Glasgow. But it's the same world over as in Scotland. It's Glenfiddich, Macallan, Glenmorangie. They're the big hitters in Scotland as well.
That's interesting. I find because America's spirit, America's national spirit is bourbon, which I think is a mistake. Rye was around long before.
Yeah.
But when Prohibition, and we did this thing in America called Prohibition. You heard of it?
Yeah.
The noble experiment. Failure. So when Prohibition ended, bourbon became wildly popular because it was, it was available at that point. It wasn't really available pre-Prohibition. And then it was a little bit sweeter. And I think during Prohibition we acquired a sweet tooth because we drank more than we ever had drank before, but we had to hide all the bad booze with a lot of sugary things.
That's true.
So we changed our palate, and then that's, somewhere around in that time is when we decided we needed a national spirit, and this one was so popular that it dominated rye. I think rye should have been our heritage. So that's actually what they're trying to make it now. Dave Pickerell's working on a plan here in the United States to make rye a heritage spirit. It can't be the national spirit because that's already taken, but rye whiskey.
Yeah, but rye's always, coming for the UK, we always, in the bars I worked, we always, favoured rye as a base for, like, American classic-style cocktails. But, it was always so short in supply.
Yeah, frankly, that's still happening. I'm sure you're talking about some time ago, but
Yeah,
it's
about
still
4 or 5
happening.
years ago, yeah.
And the reason is that the popularity is jumping faster than projected sales. So, you're talking about a product that's usually at least 4 years old, and they're projecting numbers 4 years ago.
Yeah.
They aren't projecting high enough. So every year, all the sort of favorite back of your bar's rye whiskeys they go into, they're gone for a couple
Out of
months
stock,
every year.
you get replaced with something else for a little while.
Rittenhouse especially, which drives me nuts. because it's such a delicious and spicy Scotch. And it's
Yeah,
also,
Rittenhouse
I
is
think,
great.
really cheap. And my feeling is this is the law of supply and demand. If you're running out of your product every year, then raise your price. I'll be willing to pay a couple dollars more. It's so inexpensive already.
When we were buying in Rittenhouse, I think it was about £13. And the last I checked, it was it's went up considerably in price now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they've gone up over the years, but I still feel like there's room for them to go up and not alienate their clientele. Because the people who are buying it at the price that it is and running it out, they're just looking for economy. They don't actually. I think that some on the lower end of that scale don't even realize they're getting such a great product. They're just looking for the economy of the product. They'll jump to something else that's economic. The ones who are like me, willing to pay $2 more a bottle, so that it's never out of supply. Like, I know what I'm getting for that money. I feel like I'm cheating them all the time because it's so cheap all the time, and then suddenly it's out of stock for 5 to 7 weeks every year.
I think one of the, and just with bourbon and rye, last 8 years, 10 years, becoming more popular than cocktails. I think one of the things that kind of slowly leading to is more people drinking Scotch in cocktails, which, I mean, you can attest to that more than I can, probably, being behind the bar all the time.
I mean, I see a lot of Scotch cocktails out and about. I don't know. I know Damon loves Scotch. I know he's got some Scotch cocktails on his menu at Grand Army. I always have one, but that's some real estate for me, given that I only carry 10 cocktails on my menu at any time. And then I always have Scotch that we can reach for and use in cocktails. But Scotch, I think, is becoming more of a grab behind bars in America than it was even 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, from the consumer perspective, I see people, I like bourbon, I like rye. They don't have my favorite rye today. What else should I try? And, I want to try a Scotch maybe. And Black Bottle, similar notes to bourbon as far as the way it drinks. Get a little smoke, a little richness, nice long finish. So, I mean, I think the brown spirits market has slowly opened up to envelop more of all whiskeys the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to communication as well.
Educate. I always say it's no better place to get an education than at a bar.
Yeah. I mean, I was a bartender for 17, 18 years, and I ran bars, and I owned a bar as well. And, I could count in one hand the amount of times that either a brand rep or an ambassador, whether it be regional or global, would come in and talk to me about blended whiskey.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Genuinely. I had more people coming in and talking to me about fortified wines than blended whiskey in Scotland. But that's changed so much over the past 3 to 5 years.
Oh, this guy's always in my bar.
That's because I love you.
Yeah, well, he's an alcoholic.
He's a hard-working guy. He's a hard-working guy.
Yeah.
So, it's all about education. I hope that's what we do across the bar, and I certainly hope that's what we do across this show, is get some education out there.
I mean, it's kind of like changing the perception for the consumers. A lot of people still think just all Scotch is just smoke, and
there's that polarizing element again.
Yeah, I mean, not every Scotch is just smoke in your face.
I feel like there's another edge to that sort of polarization, which is, and I hate to even say it because I feel like I'm getting old myself, but people view Scotch as an old person's drink.
Yeah.
In much this, and I can say this with without a lot of hesitation, because my whole house is built out of Amaro, and people think that of that as well. Yet you look around my bar and it's packed with people from all ages, frankly, but mostly at this point they're younger.
Yeah, I mean, it's real. When I look at the whiskey industry over the last 5-10 years, and certainly going back to when I started as a bartender, and the general attitude specifically to blended whiskey, is it's cheap, it's inferior, it's not as good as a quality product as a single malt is. There's not as much time, there's not as much effort put in it as a single malt.
I feel like there's more effort put into it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Single malt is just, we made it, we bottled it, done.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but if it wasn't for blended whiskey initially, we wouldn't be talking about single malt whiskey. Because back in the 1860s, people weren't drinking single malt whiskey. Single malt whiskey at that time, it was unrefined, unlegislated to a certain extent. There wasn't as many controls on Scotch whiskey as there is now. So, it was a lot fierier, it was a lot spicier, it was a lot more challenging. And even in the central belt of Scotland, Glasgow, Edinburgh, I don't think too many people were drinking it. I think it was just the crazy Highlanders and the wee illicit stills, creating stuff illegally and maybe making a few people blind.
Yeah.
But it was blending that really made it a lot more approachable. There was kind of like a storm of opportunity that happened in the space of 40, 50 years in Scotland that changed the whole landscape of Scotch whisky. Because the majority of people would drink French wine and brandy, and then you had the phylloxera epidemic.
Yeah, wiped out. No grapes, no wine, no brandy.
Then you had James Coffey inventing the continuous still, which meant for the first time you could create a whisky from grain really quickly that was lighter, sweeter, and a lot more approachable. Then you had the Excise Act, which was around about the 1830s. By the time that took hold, meant there was a lot more legislation coming into place in whisky. So in the space of like 50 years, you had an entire landscape changing, and blended whisky was the one that really started to make everybody drink whisky. And back then, it was seen as the more refined, the more superior, the higher quality whisky to be drinking than the stuff that was coming straight off the stills. So it was almost like the opposite to the attitude, is what it's kind of like considered right now.
I absolutely see that. Yeah,
it's really interesting.
And I've always thought that the blends this is a more intricate thing to make.
Yeah, of course, because you need
to make them and then make them consistent.
Yeah, consistently, that's it. Over a period of 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And some malts don't become available anymore, so...
You've got to be able to recreate that same product over and over as a master blender.
Yeah, and these guys do this forever, right? You're like born into the job, you die at the job.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really famous. Dave Stewart at William Grant's. I think he's been there for I think the last
50 plus years.
Yeah, man.
How long?
About a little bit over 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Born to the job, die at the job.
He was made to retire 10 years ago.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Good for them to have someone that dedicated to stay on. Well, boys, this has been great, very enlightening, educational, and delicious. Thanks for hanging out with us in the studio today. I'm going to wrap up the show. After the show, though, at 5 o'clock, you guys are doing a 2-hour happy hour over at Grand Army, which is Damon Bolte's bar down in Brooklyn. So if you're listening, and you should get over there and drink some Scotch whiskey cocktails with these guys. They know what they're doing and what they're talking about. And it's always a fun time, the Speakeasy happy hour series that happens over there. Next week's show, we got Jan Warren, dear friend of mine, as well as sort of local bar legend here in New York City. He's going to be on the show with Damon talking about gin. Black Bottle Gin, Black Bottle Scotch.
Thanks for the shot.
You got it. Black Bottle mix of gin?
That's next year, man. You give away the secret.
Brooklyn Gin. And then Jan is also going to be doing a happy hour at Grand Army immediately following from 5 to 7, using that delicious juice as well. I will not be here. I'll be in Mexico, where I've never been. So I'm excited to get out of the country again.
You know they have sun there, right?
I'm excited. I'm ready for the sun.
Yeah.
I tan really well.
Yeah.
I just never see the sunlight in my day-to-day life anymore. Anyway, so that was a great show, guys. Thanks for being here. Tune in next week for Jan Warren and Brooklyn Gin, and thanks for listening to the Speakeasy, guys. Cheers.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil finds his groove in them rhythm and blues. That's him. It's gonna get you some in the end.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.